What's going on, everyone? Thanks for watching another one of my videos. I really appreciate you taking your time and your valuable time to stop and watch this. I think we can all agree that value is something that we all care about, and that can be value in time or money, or even in space if it's something like in the garden. I think most of us could agree, or most of us have limited garden space, and I'm definitely included in that. I know that every year when I plan out my garden, I try to think of where every little plant is going to go, where every vegetable is going to go, so that the spacing is just right and I can squeeze out every single inch and get the most food possible out of the garden. I want to be able to provide my family and myself with the most nutrition, most food, as much food as possible, as I said. And I think that sometimes that can be a challenging task, but there's a few plants, there's a few crops that I really feel like I can get a lot out of the space when I plant them. They can be used in a variety of different ways. The plant itself, or the vegetable that it produces, it has a lot of nutritional value, and it's worth the time. It's a plant that's pretty easy to plant. Two of them really come to mind, I think, that are going to be the most valuable in my mind. Two that, well, maybe in dollar amount might not be the most valuable. Well, they're pretty valuable plants, actually. But two that are definitely valuable in the nutrition department, and the usefulness department, and in the space department. And I think that that combination, those three things combined together, are going to really make these plants these vegetables that you're going to really want to consider growing this year and adding to your garden if you don't already have them. Plus, if you stick around, I'll add one more that I think is really useful and provides a lot of nutrition, but also has some other benefits to your garden. Hi, I'm Justin Gianni. Thanks for joining me on my channel and sticking around for this video. What we're going to do is we're going to start with my number one crop. This garden vegetable is probably number one, even ahead of the second one, just because of the long growing season that it has. And you can tell it has some big green leafy greens growing right now. It's beautiful. This is mid-April, so this is like prime time for the greens from this plant. And these are beets. This is beetroot, the beet greens, and then obviously the root down below, which will be harvested in a little bit as it slowly starts to grow. I start them in cells indoors, in seed trays indoors when it's really cold outside, and when I maybe wouldn't put them quite outside yet. Zone 7B is where I am, so it's not that cold here, but it definitely will get cold enough to slow the growth of the plants. Anyways, as you can tell, these are multi-sown, so there's multiple beet roots growing per cell, and when I plant them out, I plant them all three or four together. And that's obviously a trick that I learned from Charles Dowding, who obviously is world-renowned no-dig gardener and is notorious for all of the information that he shared with the world. And obviously a very useful tip, and once again, it's a space saver. It saves you a lot of space, and you can get a lot out of planting these beets. These are very packed in here. I'll probably get 30 beetroots just out of this, plus all of the greens, so you can imagine how many meals that's going to make. The reason why I really feel like this vegetable is my number one on the list is because there's a lot of different ways that you can prepare it. You can roast it, you can pickle it, you can do a lot of different things. We love them in our house, and it has a very, very complex chemical profile, natural chemical profile with the colors. Obviously, the dark reds and purples are going to have a whole host of nutritional compounds associated with it. So definitely a high value in a nutritional sense, but also, as I stated earlier, with the greens growing up top, it saves you a lot of space. If you're considering growing Swiss chard, and you don't have space for both Swiss chard and beets, I would probably recommend growing beets, because you're going to get a very, very similar green leafy crop from those beets. without having to worry about the space that you're competing with the Swiss chard. And you, in the end of the day, or in the end of the season, you're going to be able to harvest, later in the season I should say, you're going to be able to harvest a beet root, which is going to be a nice treat, just something different. This is a plant that, in my mind, has a lot of value, because not only do you get to eventually harvest the root, but you get to harvest these greens early on. So you actually almost get 2 crops for 1. So beets are definitely one that you should consider planting in your garden. It's a very efficient use of space. They're super dense in nutrition, and they taste really good. I think that a lot of people probably, it's a love-hate type relationship, or I guess maybe I should say people either love them or they hate them, might be a better way of saying it. But there's a lot of different ways to prepare them, and I think that most people that don't like beets probably haven't had them prepared a certain way, and maybe they had beets that were too large, that were overgrown, and that got kind of tough. As you can see, this beet right here is actually from last season. I'm letting these beets grow, this particular root grow, and I'm letting it grow through the previous season into this season so that I can it'll flower and I can collect seeds this season. But I went a little bit off topic, but I definitely think you should consider planting beets in your garden. I think that you'll get a lot of value out of it in your space and your time, and they're easy to plant. All right, so that was my #1 most valuable garden vegetable. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What would your #1 most valuable be? Okay, so my next most valuable crop is sweet potatoes. It's a little bit of a warmer season crop, so they're not in the ground yet. Right now, I just have some slips started in these jars, and these are sweet potatoes that I saved last year and placed them in jars with some water and let the roots start to form. And once the roots start to form, slowly you'll start to get this growth, this little vine, which are called slips. They're referred to as slips. These plants, when it warms up, these slips will go in the ground, and my sweet potato crop will come from that this coming year. I really think that sweet potatoes should be grown in everybody's vegetable garden. They're a highly valuable and highly nutritious plant. They are one that grows in a little bit of a hotter season, so obviously these are not in the ground yet. These will get planted later on once the weather warms up, once there's no risk of frost, and once the nights stay warmer. These sweet potatoes are also similar to beets in that both the root and the green up top can be used as food. Most people don't realize this, but sweet potatoes are actually not in the potato family. They're actually in the morning glory family. Both the top and the bottom are going to have different nutritional values. Obviously, the greens, as stated before, and as I said before with the beets, are going to have a very different nutrition profile as the root down below, but both are incredibly nutritionally dense. I always tell people you want to eat as many different colors of the rainbow as possible, and no, I'm not talking about Skittles. When you look at sweet potatoes, you definitely have some orange colors and some green, and sweet potatoes also come in some purple varieties as well. Even if you don't get large sweet potatoes growing down below the ground, you're still going to get some beautiful greenery growing above that is also tasty and has plenty of nutritional value. Sweet potatoes are also valuable because they can be stored over a long season, and those sweet potatoes are almost as good at the end of the long winter they were stored, if they were stored properly, as when they were harvested initially and when they were first cured. I definitely think that you should grow sweet potatoes for both the sweet potato and the vines that come off of it. Both, as I said, have a lot of nutrition and have a lot of different uses. All right, so obviously the last 2 crops were root vegetables. Maybe I have a fascination with root vegetables. I don't know. Now for the bonus. The bonus, sorry to bore you guys, is beans. Beans, I know they don't sound very exciting, but there's a lot of uses for beans, and there's a lot of good things about beans. Obviously, you've got climbing beans, you've got bush beans, and you've got a lot of different varieties of beans. We try to grow as many different varieties as possible. I personally love climbing beans because I can use my fence in my garden to grow them up, and I don't even have to use garden or raised bed space for them. It saves a lot of space for me, which to me, like I always say, anything that saves me space is going to be something that's really valuable to me. And I also feel that there's a lot of nutritional value to them. Add the fact that they can be stored for long periods of time, and that's just a bonus. Thank you so much for watching my video today, everybody. I hope that you thought that it provided you with some value. If you liked it, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to putting out more content for you in the future. It's April, so there's a lot of exciting stuff happening in the garden right now, and I hope that that's going to just bring a lot of ideas to me that I'm going to be able to share with you. We get really lucky this time of year where I'm at with some beautiful weather. I hope you're getting beautiful weather, and once you finally do this spring, please spend as much time outside as possible.